Hi, welcome to Scotty Wandering. In today's short video, I'm going to let you know what my experience was like at the Wall. If you don't know what the Wall is, it's also known as the Badlands Boondock location, just south of Wall, South Dakota, and just outside of Badlands National Park. It sits on a ridge overlooking the Badlands. You might have buffalo wandering through, you might have other wildlife wandering through. This stretch of boondocking location rides a ridge that is over 2 miles long, a windy, twisty road. It is sketchy when the weather is wet. And that's what I'm going to show you in my experience from there in this part of the video. I have made it to the Wall. No longer called the Wall, but now Badlands Dispersed Camping in the Grasslands. It is in flux. I am currently driving down the road, and it is wet and it is muddy, and I'm going sideways most of the way because it's muddy and slippery. And I saw one van I'll show you on the way back down, if I go back down that way, if I dare do it, that is pretty much way off the side. Now this, not a bad site right now. They have basically told you park in designated sites only now. There are sites behind me that are in the state of being well-defined gravel safe sites to park on. And that's not so bad where that big schoolie is, but a lot of these are really sketch, especially when the weather is questionable. But on the Wall side, it's out. They don't want you parking over there. There are no sites over there. So you have a designated site. That actually looks like it might be a potentially nice grassy site. That is an excellent site right there once you back far enough. But over on this side, no. Let's see how this ends up here. But there is a lot of work being done to improve this area for longer term use. Well, this looks like it's going to continue on for a while. I see vehicles parked way out there now. But behind me, there are a bunch of nice, simple campsites. Still no facilities up here. And where people would have parked over here on the edge, not an option anymore. And in the area that has been improved, the road does not look anything like this. This is definitely a drive at your own risk. You might get stuck in a gully. Things are definitely looking better in the other end. Down here, these are looking like nice grassy spots. Now, I did look at, in the Badlands, there is a free campground way at the western edge of the park, and it was all mud too. And amongst the prairie dog towns, which would be great, except the prairie dogs in Badlands have had the detection of the plague. So I decided that just wasn't worth sticking around for. Oof, oof. Let's see how I get up this hill. Slip sliding. This actually looks like a decent spot right here. I'm still sliding a little. I washed my van yesterday. Can you tell? It did not look like this a few minutes ago. That was clean. And you can see how I kind of trenched in here a little bit. My neighbors look really bad over there. But here's the payoff. This is what people come for. Oof. Don't even want to walk across this right now. Apparently buffalo come by. We are still in those areas. But it just keeps going and going, and on the other side of the radio towers are the nicer, newer sites. And these are all very much boondock sites out here. A little more spaced out. There's a big space between here and the next ones, but you're running a risk on bad weather. Yeah, I can see some, I think, bison down there. Now I'm sure in this beautiful spot out here people used to camp, but that is no longer allowed. So after driving the stretch through the whole 2 miles, I went into Wall, regrouped, and decided to go back out. I went back up by the radio tower and turned right. I was not going to go left again because the road was just unpassable. And I didn't want to risk it because there was more rain in the forecast and things were not going to get better. Well, I'm down at the, let's see, that's west, that's north, south end, closest to the park, to Badlands National Park, furthest from Wall itself. And this is the new section. So these new sites here, which are nicely gravel paved, nicely defined, still very large. There's a pole that's missing here, but between poles, so you got a ton of room to play with here. Everybody seems to be lined up as if they're in an RV park. Nobody's being creative. But now you just get to walk across. Ooh, still a little mucky. And take in the views. But this road is passable right now, as opposed to the mile plus of road over there, which is really bad when it's wet. So down here on this end of the radio towers has kind of been redone. I think it makes a lot of sense. They've defined the spaces over there, but they're not as cleanly defined and fresh graveled and defined of a back edge with the logs down there. But I assume that eventually that's going to happen down there, and I don't think it's a bad thing, especially on a day like today where it has been raining, and it'll probably rain some more. But it's cleared now, so I'm going to go for a walk. Of course, it is boondocking, which means some generators, but not many. While I was there, I picked my spot, and the spots are very wide. They're even in the more refined section, they're still very wide. And there was a couple other people, as I saw them coming up the road, I was like, don't go down there. And they came over my way. I said, share my space. I got plenty of space. You're just a car camper. You're just somebody with a little teardrop. Come share my space. I am fine with that. I don't want you heading down the other way. We saw a Class A try. They turned around and left. And even then, they struggled to get out. And in the morning, when it was time for me to leave, I got myself some speed up, and I got to the top of the hill, and unfortunately a car was coming, and I had to let him go, and I almost couldn't get out of the parking area or out of the boondocking area and get back on the pavement. So while I was there and wandering around, taking pictures, so you can see what it's like down here on the south end, closest to Badlands National Park, you can see that they're well-defined spaces. People are sort of lined up as they would a little more RV park than what that place is known for. But the gravel was solid. But if you wandered off that gravel, and you can see in this photograph up close in the near space, you can see footprints. When you would walk off that gravel, you would start adding weight to your shoes. Your shoes would become caked, really thick with mud, and you'd be walking around with 10-pound shoes in no time. And that was happening to the vehicles too. And that's why I don't recommend going there when it's raining. The next day, I wanted to go for a hike. Couldn't do it. All the hikes, if they're not on a boardwalk, are on the same kind of mud or same kind of rock clay. And when it's dry, great. Go for hikes. When it's wet, that is just slick, slick mud. So just not the best place when it's raining. However, it was good place for some pictures from the roadside. And I've got plenty of those. So back to the campground. What they're doing now is they are setting up designated spots and gravelizing it, flattening it out, making it a little more like a campground, but it's still free. So I wonder how much they're going to do in that whole 2-mile stretch. All they have done so far is pretty much say no more staying on the cliffside. We're going to protect that, and let's just stay over on the grassy side. But even that is questionable when it's wet. So that's my look at Badlands boondocking spot in the Nebraska National Forest / Grasslands between Wall and Badlands National Park, straight south of Wall on the way down. Still a wonderful place, still worthwhile checking out, especially if it's not so wet. Now, special note, if you go just a little south from there, you're in the park, you got to go through the entrance, and maybe a mile and a half, if that, you're at the first viewpoint. That viewpoint, there's a restroom. So it may be a boondocking spot without restrooms, but it's not far from the nearest public restroom. If you have your park pass, you need that to get in down there. While I was at that rest stop first thing in the morning, after I came out of the restroom, I was standing next to my van, went down, looked at the view, came back up. I didn't really look off next to my van. On the other side of the van, there was a bison hanging out there drinking out of the puddles. Happy as could be, just drinking out of the puddles. You never know when you're going to see them around there and how close they're going to be. So be aware. They can pop out of nowhere. While you're out visiting the Badlands, take the time to also visit Minuteman National Monument just down the street. It's worth a stop. Maybe give it a half an hour. That's about all you'll need to really spend the time there. If you want to visit one of the sites in that area, make sure you make reservations ahead of time, because they do book those out in advance. It's not a place you can just show up and jump in. I'll see you in the next one. Hope you got something out of it. If you did, please like and subscribe. Look for more content from me. I'll see you in the next one, and get out and enjoy our public lands.